Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Naranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Śukadeva Gosvāmī Swami Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivajikacharya Ashtotara Shata Shri Srimad Bhagavatam Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. All glories of the assembled devotees. All the glories of the assembled devotees. All glories of the assembled devotees. All glories of Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. So is there a verse written? I think it's written, right? It needs to be brought out. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Canto 6, Prescribed Duties for Mankind, Chapter 1, The History of the Life of Ajamil, Text 6. So everybody could please repeat after me. Aduneha Maha Bhaga Yataiva Narakan Naraha Nanogra Yatanan Niyatan Me Vyakyatum Arhasi Aduneha Mahabhaga Yataiva Narakan Naraha Nanogra Yatanan Niyat Tan me vyakyatum arhasi Aduneha Mahabhaga Yataiva Narakannaraha Nanugra Yatananeya Tanme Vyakyatumarhasi Aduneha Mahabhaga Yataiva Narakannaraha Nanugra Yatananeya Tanme Vyakyatumarhasi. Okay, please chant. Hare Krishna. Would you like to chant? Okay, word. Aduna, right now. Iha, in this material world. Mahabhaga, O greatly opulent and fortunate Śukadeva Gosvāmī. Yata, so that. Eva, indeed. Nadakan, all the hellish conditions into which the impious are put. Nadaha, human beings. Nana, varieties of. Ugra, terrible. Yatanan, conditions of suffering. Na iyat, may not undergo. Tat, that. May, to me. Vyakyatum arhasi, please describe. Translation, commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. O greatly fortunate and opulent Śukadeva Gosvāmī, now kindly tell me how human beings may be saved from having to enter hellish conditions in which they suffer terrible pains. Purport. In the 26th chapter of the 5th canto, Śukadeva Gosvāmī has explained that people who commit sinful acts are forced to enter hellish planets and suffer. Now Maharaj Parīkṣit, being a devotee, is concerned with how this can be stopped. A Vaiṣṇava is paradukha dukhi. In other words, he has no personal troubles, but he's very unhappy to see others in trouble. Prahlada Maharaja said, "My Lord, I have no personal problems, for I have learned how to glorify your transcendental qualities and thus enter a trance of ecstasy. I do not have a problem. I do have a problem. However, for I am simply thinking of these rascals and fools who are busy with māyā-sukha, temporary happiness, without knowledge of devotional service unto you. This is the problem faced by a Vaiṣṇava. Because a Vaiṣṇava fully takes shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he personally has no problems. But because he is compassionate toward the fallen, conditioned souls, he is always thinking of plans to save them from their hellish life in this body and the next. Parīkṣit Mahārāja therefore anxiously wanted to know from Śukadeva Gosvāmī how humanity can be saved from gliding down to hell. Śukadeva Gosvāmī had already explained how people enter hellish life, and he could also explain how they could be saved from it. Intelligent men must take advantage. Intelligent men must take advantage of these instructions. Unfortunately, however, the entire world is lacking Krishna consciousness, and therefore people are suffering from the grossest ignorance and do not even believe in a life after this one. To convince them of their next life is very difficult, because they have almost become mad in their pursuit of material enjoyment. Nevertheless, our duty, the duty of all sane men, is to save them. Maharaj Parīkṣit is the representative of one who can save them. The duty of all sane men. Om Jnanatīvanandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshulanmilitam Nena Tasmai Śukadeva Mahamakam Kridavachalam Pangam Langaiti Tegadim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shigarindatarinam Vancha Kopdribhisha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaiṣṇavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Translation again. O greatly fortunate and opulent Śukadeva Gosvāmī, now kindly tell me how human beings may be saved from having to enter hellish conditions in which they suffer terrible pains. So the more one is Krishna conscious, the more one has awakened their Krishna consciousness, the more they'll be able to actually, you could say, be sensitive to the pain of others. Yeah, to empathize. I was going to say that word, but sometimes it's a... Anyways, because when you talk about compassion, when you talk about, empathy and all these different types of things, a lot of these words have been kind of, I don't want to say hijacked, but yeah, actually, hijacked by different movements. Yes, that's true. We want to hijack them back. Means that people have taken these words and they've taken these words, and then when people say the words, because certain movements have used these words in certain ways, then people have an idea. Like when you say love, for example, people think of all different things, which have nothing to do with love. But a devotee, the more they're in connection with Krishna, the more they'll be able to have compassion for others. And a person who's not connected to Krishna, they actually can't have compassion toward others, because they're thinking that they're the material body, and this type of compassion for the material body, yeah, you could say it is maybe some sense of compassion, but it is misplaced. It's not real compassion. Just like Srila Prabhupada was once in Rishikesh, and some lady was saying how they said, "Oh, she has so much compassion for living entities and this and that," and then she was kind of a New Agey type of spiritualist lady, yogi type, and so much compassion. And then Prabhupada said, very pointedly, he said, "What is your compassion?" He said, "Your compassion is like blowing air on a what do you call it? Boil. It's like blowing air on a boil. What is your compassion?" In other words, he's telling her that you don't know what compassion is, because in order to have compassion, in order for a person to have real compassion, they have to know who it is they're trying to help. But devoid of a conception of the soul, it's just compassion of the body. So a person who's not a devotee, aside from not having compassion, they're actually forced, you could say, by them taking shelter of the modes of material nature, they're actually forced to be, what's the opposite of compassionate? Violent toward others. And they don't cross their mind how they're being violent. Maybe you could close the door, please, and come back. Because you could close the door but not come back. So, is he going to come back?
Yeah, he closed the outdoor stuff. You can talk to him. He went all the way back
but it doesn't even cross their mind how they're being violent toward others. It doesn't cross their mind. Just like one time, and it doesn't cross their mind. It doesn't cross their mind how they're causing pain to others. And it also doesn't cross their mind how they're going to have to suffer for that in the future. Both of these things don't cross their mind. Maybe you could hold off on the practice. But it doesn't cross the mind how they're causing suffering to others and how they're going to have to suffer in the future. That just doesn't cross their mind, which is an interesting point. Because to be intelligent or to be fortunate means that a person will consider this. Am I causing other people pain? And they'll also consider, hey, well, if I cause other people pain, I will also have to suffer. But a person in ignorance, it just doesn't cross their mind at all. Just like, for example, fishing. I mean, Srila Prabhupada, one time he was walking in Seattle, and this guy, they're out there, they got the line and, fishing pole and, reeling it in, throw it out, First thing, you gotta put a worm on the hook. Now that's the first suffering step. I mean, imagine, being put on a hook, worms put on a hook, right? And then you're thrown out there. So the worm's down there in the river or the pond or whatever, and then I guess you first put them on a hook and then you drown them, right? That's a worm. So, because they can't live. I mean, I guess they live underground, but water, they just drown. So, first you put them on a hook and you drown them. So a person will think, why am I going to put a living entity? Okay, small worm. Why am I going to hook a living entity and drown them? I mean, that's. Yeah, so you can catch a fish, but it's causing pain, so better not. Like Prabhupada said, I was reading the other day in the purport, Prabhupada said that these people, these huge operations of slaughterhouse operations, which are criminal, and these behind closed doors, they're slaughtering all of these animals. And Prabhupada said that great kings in the past, if this was to happen, then they would go and kill that person, because it is just as criminal as behind closed doors killing a child, helpless child, helpless animal. So anyways, putting the hook on and throwing out to the pond, and then, catching a fish, right? And then the fish is out and is, suffering and struggling to breathe and eventually dies. They cut him up and eat him, right? So anyways, Prabhupada was walking in Seattle and somebody caught a fish right in front of Prabhupada. This is Satsrup Das Goswami and one of his, he wrote many books about his experiences with Prabhupada, but in Seattle. So, caught a fish, and then the guy was probably just saying it, I don't think he was trying to be offensive towards Prabhupada or the devotees, but just simple fisher guy. He said, "Oh, you want some, Swami?" I told Prabhupada, "You want some, Swami? You want some of the fish?" And Prabhupada said, "No, that's okay. You enjoy." That's okay. And then Prabhupada kept on walking with the devotees. And then Prabhupada told the devotees, and suffer, you know. So they enjoy some type of, you could say, happiness in the mode of ignorance, but then, you know, to suffer. And this is the state of the world. It is a place it's just like ridden with unnecessary violence towards animals, towards humans, even in day-to-day social interactions between husband, between wife, domestic violence, between children. I mean, the world of, child abuse. It's just terrible. And on and on and on and on. If we were to actually be conscious of everything bad that was going on at this particular moment, we would just die. We'd have a heart attack, or we'd, you know, smash our head against a rock or something out of complete agony. It is just terrible. So then the question is, okay, understanding this to a degree, to whatever degree we can, then we should want to help others. We should want to help others. Yadidekitaha kaha Krishna upadesh. To become a guru and deliver the land, right? Whoever you meet, wherever you go, become a guru by repeating the words of Krishna, as mentioned in Bhagavad Gita and other books, and deliver the land. Try to. So it's important. So a devotee understand the suffering of the world. They try to help. And as Srila Prabhupada said, this is the duty of all sane men or all sane women. This is the duty. Means that if we don't realize this duty, then we're insane. As what Prabhupada's saying, we're insane. So we have to realize the duty and act accordingly. But sometimes people think, oh, okay, well, what's the use? Am I really even helping anybody? I'm trying to, but is anybody accepting my help? Because one thing is you have to. One thing is to help. But try to help somebody. But another thing is for that person to accept your help. That's a whole other story. I mean, try being a priest, try being a leader, try being a guru, try being in some leadership position, or just try having friends. One thing is to try to help them, and another thing is for them to actually accept the help. And a lot of people in conditioned life, it means they don't want to accept help. They don't see the need for it. Aside from not seeing the need for it, they just, for whatever, they just don't want it. They don't want help. The pride and so many things. Which is a very difficult situation. So not only do you have a bunch of people who are just suffering in madness and illusion, but they also don't want help. Can you imagine? I mean, that's the state of the world. So Srila Prabhupada said, just like a doctor goes sometimes and, okay, time to give some medicine, time to, whatever, inject some medicine or take some blood or, right, feed them the soup, you know, that they don't want. They want to have something else. And the doctor, sometimes this patient just, you know, yells at them, screams at them, hits them, right? So Srila Prabhupada compared this to devotees trying to help people in general. They get mad, they get angry, they don't want it, right? But the devotees don't give up their duty on that basis. The doctor doesn't give up their duty on that basis of people not reciprocating. Just like on book distribution, devotees when they go out, you get a number of people who are just, they all need help, that's for sure. They all need Prabhupada's books, that's for sure. Prabhupada said he wanted every gentleman and every lady to have a Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita set in their house. Srila Prabhupada's books in their house. So how is that going to happen? By book distribution. some people say stop book distribution, but okay, how is Prabhupada's books going to get in their house? And Prabhupada said he wanted them in their houses, so. And so many devotees actually, on the basis of getting books, feel very inspired in Krishna consciousness and become devotees, so it's a bit of a strange conception to stop it. And if you say stop it, then okay, well, why don't you do something? Say, oh, just stop book distribution because there's other better ways. Okay, well, what are those better ways? Are you doing them? Prabhupada said that you judge an activity by its fruit. And if someone says stop book distribution, then we could tell them, okay, sure, you could do that, and then you show us the fruit. What is the fruit of your stopping book distribution? Are you making a lot of devotees? You could say, well, you're not making a lot of devotees either. And say, well, at least we're distributing Prabhupada's book. You're not making a lot of devotees and you're not distributing Prabhupada's books. Anyways, it's a whole other topic. But sometimes people wonder, am I really helping people? And this could be a bit of a passionate, this is a bit of a passionate conception. It means not a sattvic conception, but to speak of transcendental. Passion in the sense that why are we so eager to get results? Automatic, so quickly. Krishna is very patient. He's the most patient, the supreme patient, right? Waiting. I mean, he waits a long time for the conditioned soul to turn. It's not so easy for the conditioned soul to turn toward Krishna, really. So the fact that in certain places in the world and in certain times of the world, there's not everybody's lining up, knocking on the door, wanting to surrender to Krishna, or at least even inquire about Krishna. Devotees shouldn't feel discouraged by that. And actually, they shouldn't really expect some large turnout. It is actually a miracle that anybody shows up. Like tonight, we suspect that there'll be people showing up. They have been for some years now. So we suspect they're going to show up tonight at the Krishna Lounge. But it's actually a miracle that they show up, because there's so many things they could be doing with their time and energy. So we shouldn't be too eager to see results, but we should just do our duty. The duty of every sane man is to try. That doesn't mean if there's no amazing results they give up. That's passionate. Passion means to give up. Oh, it's not working. To H-E-L-L with it. I'm out of here, right? It's not working. Forget about it. But to be at least in the mode of goodness means to do the duty no matter what. Whether there was, and also not to be so eager for the results. If the results, if people do show up and people do become devotees, that is a super miracle, right? And gradually, slowly but surely, we actually do help people. And even if, like Srila Prabhupada mentions in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, he says, even by this endeavor, if we make one pure devotee, we will consider our attempt a success. We just make one. So what to speak of many? Or as Srila Prabhupada, at least in some instances, he said, we don't want these like shooting stars, right? It's like a shoot, because a shooting star, you ever seen a shooting star? Yeah, it's very beautiful. Oh wow, look at that! It's in the air and it looks very beautiful, but it's just really quick. It's gone. But the moon, rises. A moon rises, right, and it's just steady, just there, giving out illumination. So Prabhupada said we want many moons, and Prabhupada said actually I was just going for one moon. But now he said, I have many moons in the form of my disciples, which means they're giving out steady illumination. And as the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu says, Srila Rupa Goswami's book, The Complete Science of Bhakti Yoga, which Prabhupada bases Nectar's devotion on, it says that, or he says that, even on the level of bhava, which is a very high level, actually, it's a preliminary stage of the level of Krishna before prema, said even on that level, just as a moon has spots, a devotee may have some lingering faults, but one should not unnecessarily fault him on that basis. Oh, useless, but still giving out illumination, even on the level of bhava. So what to speak of not on the level of bhava. So, but the devotees are also given out illumination. Even if they're not on the level of bhava, there's still illumination there. You can't say there's not. It's illogical. So, so even if just one person becomes a devotee, that we consider our effort at a success. That's what Srila Prabhupada said. So it may seem that our helping others is not fruitful, but it actually takes a lot to get somebody out of illusion. There's many steps to it, and we shouldn't think our attempts as useless. Just as that example is given, which I'm not exactly sure where it's from, but we could look it up. But it's a good example, logical example. But there's a bunch of starfish that washed up on the beach, and there was one elderly man, and he was, you start getting a little older, you start moving slower, right? Especially when you're like really older, kind of moving slow, and just everything slows down, right? So he was very slowly walking, picking up the starfish like this and throwing back in the ocean, and he was walking to another one. Now, of course, if you're a young man or woman, you could, right, quick. But anyways, he was very slowly. So then a young man came up to him and he said, "What are you doing?" And then the older man said, "What does it look like I'm doing?" "I'm helping these starfish, because if the starfish remain outside of the ocean for long enough, they dry up and they die." And people, you see, some people, they decorate their house with these, dead starfish or whatever. But so he said, "I'm trying to help these starfish," and there was, hundreds of them moving very slow. And then the young man said, "But I mean, there's so many of them. There's like hundreds. Do you really think you're making a difference?" And the old man, he bent down and he grabbed another one and he threw it out in the ocean. He said, "Yeah, I just made a difference right now." And then, the man said, "Okay," and then he started helping him throw out the starfish. So book by book, person by person, conversation by conversation, kirtan by kirtan, prasadam by prasadam, slowly, giving people Krishna's mercy. That's the idea. Of course, if we could do it on a larger scale, better. If one person could distribute how many books? I guess it depends who that person is. But there's a bit of a limit, I guess. Anyways. Yeah, the limit keeps going up. So, but even then, right? How much time is in a day, right? Only so much. How much lifespan they have. But if they could get, another person, if they could get 10 people doing what they're doing, it expands. So Srila Prabhupada understood the principle, obviously, that he could do so much, but of course they said Bhaktivinoda Thakur could deliver the whole world, but he left something for us to do. But the principle of training others is important also to get things to help distribute Krishna's mercy. So this is what a devotee is interested in, as it's being mentioned here. King is asking, how can they be saved from their hellish conditioning in which they're put in? They're suffering in this temporary happiness, māyā-sukha, hellish life in this life and the next life. So how can they be saved? So in the following verses, we're going to hear the different processes in which they could be freed from their sinful reactions, coming to the ultimate stage, which we'll be discussing soon. And then they'll get into the details of the pastime of Ajamil, which is very instructive in so many ways. And it'll also be nice to go through it, so because we'll get all the details, which are sometimes overlooked. So yes, this should be our desire to become merciful, and to increase in our mercifulness toward the conditioned soul, and also towards our fellow devotees. So I'm so compassionate towards the non-devotees. Well, what about the devotees? Also, charity begins at home, right? To be compassionate toward all living entities, and this is the duty of every sane person. So, does anybody have any?
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Can you be merciful towards the Zoom students?
Yes, I will.
Oh, thank you very much. You're a gentleman.
We just have Tyler asking his question.
Of course, we can wait.
I was really inspired and enlivened by hearing about a Seattle story. That was really awesome. Do you know how I can get more of those from Prabhupada?
Well, if you look at Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, or in some of Satsrupa Das Goswami's books, this is in other books. There's a number of other books. It describes Srila Prabhupada's pastimes in Seattle.
In Seattle?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you
Nice.
could look those up.
And
Prabhupada's
that-
time spent there.
Bhaktivinoda Thakur could have delivered the world, but he didn't because he left us for something to do. I think I'm going to bumble that. That's something you just said?
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard that before? What's that idea behind that?
Well, one time Prabhupada was talking with Vaiṣṇava Swami and a few of the other boys, Prabhupada's boys, Prabhupada's men, and they're all talking in Los Angeles, and you hear the recording of it. And in the background, you hear these people doing jiu-jitsu or whatever they're doing, or karate, or I don't know, something they're doing, and they're making when you, they're making those noises, and they keep on, you hear the recording, and you see the video also. And then Prabhupada said, oh, what are they doing? And then Prabhupada said, oh, they're learning self-defense, So anyways, they discussed that a little bit. But then in the conversation between Vaiṣṇava Swami and Prabhupada brings up this point that, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he could have actually delivered the whole world, but he left something for us to do. So, you have the case of Vasudeva Dutt in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, who by his desire, he told Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there's Vasudeva Dutt, right? Great devotee of Lord Chaitanya, and he said that I want to take the sinful reactions of all living entities within this universe on my head. And he said, even if I have to go to hell and suffer perpetually, as long as they become delivered, then that's okay. That's what I want. And he was serious about it. He wasn't joking. It wasn't a Vaiṣṇava joke. He said, oh no, I'm just joking. I'm just joking. Ha ha. Pass the hall of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I'm just joking. He was serious. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, oh, Vasudeva Dutt, he said, your humility is breaking my heart. He said that just on the basis of your desire, I'm liberating all the living entities within this universe, and you don't have to go to hell. And he did it. He said he emptied a universe of living entities. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and this Vasudeva Dutt in the Chaitanya Charitamrita explains that he's Prahlada Maharaja. And you hear this verse today about Prahlada Maharaja. Prahlada Maharaja saying, I don't have any personal problems because I could be absorbed in Krishna consciousness and the ecstasy of Krishna consciousness. But on the other hand, I do have one problem. The problem is that I see the suffering of the conditioned souls. How can they be delivered? So I'm going to try for that. So Vasudeva Dutt was Prahlada Maharaja, Prahlada Maharaja. And then you have this case in which Srila Prabhupada's disciple, Harikesh, Harikesh, and he asked Srila Prabhupada one time. He asked Srila Prabhupada, I'm trying to understand your mood, which is it was actually a very good question that Harikesh asked. And it's nice that it was recorded also, but he said, I'm trying to understand your mood, Srila Prabhupada. Are you in the mood of Prahlada Maharaja? And Prabhupada said, yes. And as Prahlada Maharaj says here, I'm thinking of these rascals and fools who are busy with māyā-sukha, temporary happiness. So Prabhupada said, yes, I'm always trying to deliver these fools and rascals from the material existence. So yes, I'm in the mood of Prahlada Maharaj. So the mood of Prahlada Maharaj, the mood of Vasudev Dutt, Prahlada Maharaj is Vasudev Dutt, right? That's similar principle, obviously. So Prabhupada's in that mood. But anyways, it's a case in which a Vaiṣṇava did do that, so that's why I'm bringing it up. Yes?
A couple of minutes. I was reading the second canto, third chapter, text 10. This is a famous verse, akama sarva kamo va. And Prabhupada talks in this, akama meaning desireless. And so he's expanding on that idea of desirelessness. And there's a puzzle here. I'm going to read this little passage out loud and see if you can find out where the editorial mistake is. Okay?
Yeah, whoever wins, anyways.
Yeah, you get extra dates. So Prabhupada says, desireless means, therefore, not to be inert like the stone, but to be conscious of one's actual position and thus desires satisfaction only from the Supreme Lord. Śukadeva Gosvāmī has explained this desirelessness as bhajaniya padama purusha sukha mata sasukadvam. This is a very nice phrase in his Sandarbhas. This means that one should feel happy only by experiencing the happiness of the Supreme Lord. This intuition of the living being is sometimes manifested even during the conditioned stage of living being in the material world, and such intuition is expressed as altruism, philanthropy, socialism, communism, etc. So this is, you dealt with this, this is a reflection of that sense of empathy by the undeveloped minds of less intelligent persons. So did anyone see where the mistake was? But desireless means, I'll read the sentence that has a mistake. Desireless means, therefore, not to be inert like the stone, but to be conscious of one's actual position and thus desire satisfaction only from the Supreme Lord. No, that's not what Prabhupada typed.
Satisfaction.
What he said was, what he typed was, but to be conscious of one's actual position and thus desire only satisfaction of the Supreme Lord.
Yeah.
You see the difference?
Yeah.
I came across this, and this is a radical change. This is like the pinnacle of my catches of the mistakes. It wasn't Prabhupada's mistake, editorial mistake, typist.
Yeah, there's a lot with this proofreading and editing that could be caught.
50 years. Listen carefully. Desireless, which meant to be desireless, means that a karma, not have any karma, right? But just like Vasudev Dutt, he had a strong desire to relieve the suffering of all the living entities, because he knew that would please Lord Chaitanya. The thing is, it's part and parcel of this idea of taking pleasure only in the pleasure of the Lord. Lord Chaitanya is pleased when someone comes to Krishna consciousness. So therefore, we should desire that. And Srila Prabhupada took so much trouble. Prahlada Maharaja, these are great acharyas. They feel empathy and compassion, and that's part of the whole mindset of only taking pleasure in the pleasure of the Lord, because He's pleased when others come to Him. And so it's all part of one thing. So, desireless means, therefore, not to be inert like the stone, but to be conscious of one's actual position, which he gave like the bodily limbs of only, the duty is to serve the Lord. And thus desire only, desire only the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord, rather than desire satisfaction only from the Supreme Lord. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's really remarkable that for 50 years no one actually picked up on this. Because you have a bias when you read Prabhupada's books. Oh, Prabhupada must have said it. He must have typed it. Therefore, it's right. But that's my job. Wait a minute. This isn't right. Let me check out and see it. So anyway, there's more to the story, but I don't want to take any more time. But I thought I'd share that because I think that of all the corrections I found, this was the pinnacle.
Yeah, there's a lot with editing and proofreading. Like, for example, if you say, there's two things. If you say, I want to be Krishna, right? You could say that, or you could say I want to be Krishna conscious. You know, it's a whole other philosophy. You know, of course, you know, if a devotee's writing a book and they're writing a book and they write I want to be Krishna, then they say, well, if we say conscious, you know, obviously they would write that. But I guess you could see why erasing a word, it changes the whole philosophy. So.
The Tarshaba, back to Kama, right? So the joke is, I am sex life, which is not contrary to religious principles, right? This is famous. So if you put the Kama there after sex life, it becomes non-restrictive. I am sex life, which is not contrary to, it means any old sex life is not contrary to, you understand the difference. But the restricted, no, I am only that sex life, which is not contrary to religion. One Kama makes all the difference.
Yeah. All right. Any Zoom? Or
Yes, Balaram Prabhu, Dandavat Pranams. You know better than me that mad people we find in the lunatic asylum. And people who are fond of sense gratification think that they're absolutely normal and healthy. And they do not live in the lunatic asylum. So based on this, my question is, can you give me a practical example which shows that although not living in the lunatic asylum, still the so-called normal and healthy people are no better than mad?
yeah. Okay. Yeah, let's see here. Well, no better than them. Yeah, we see that people, like Lord Śukadeva Prabhu's mentioned, Nunam Pramate Kurute Vikarma, that those who are simply engaging in sense gratification, or they're mad after it, Nunam Pramata, they're considered to be, considered to be crazy or insane because of this. In other words, just full-on hedonistic enjoyment without any consideration of any higher topics or spiritual knowledge or anything. This is considered to be madness. Now, you could say, what are some ways in which we could see that they're insane? I mean, Prabhupada wrote that whole paper, right? Who is crazy? You know, the differences between a devotional life versus a non-devotional life. But just looking at one example, if one was to follow the philosophy of Krishna consciousness perfectly, or even imperfectly, the essence of Krishna consciousness means that the majority of the population of the world, then the world wouldn't be in such a terrible, wouldn't be in such a state it is now. Like so many people, not just spiritual people, actually, probably mostly not spiritual people, I don't know, but anyways, whether they're secular people or spiritual people, religious people, whatever, practically everyone is talking about the world and how it's degressing, means how the human beings are just destroying everything. And how to save it, how to stop it. I mean, people are saying, yeah, 50 years, give it 50 years, you know. Of course, there's, who knows, right? Speculation. But you know, it's going to, everything's just going to, burn, flood, and, right? Whatever is going to happen. But whatever one wants to look at, whatever one wants to think is going to happen, it's just not looking great. Why? Because humans are destroying it. They're destroying the habitat in which they live. That's insane. I mean, that's like below animal. Animals have some sense, you know, kind of course, you could say how much harm can an animal or a pack of, you know, dogs or a pack of wolves or whatever do, right? Human beings have some more, you know, intelligence to mess things up. But still, the animals, they're not practically, I mean, maybe there's some cases of animals destroying habitats, but generally they don't. Whereas the human animals, Pashu, what do you go? Dvi Parupashu Kali Yuga, two-legged animals, just destroying it like there's no tomorrow. And a lot of these people are, of course, not all of them. You have the cheaters and the cheated. I mean, you got the big cheaters and you got the cheated public. You know, the big and small, right? Small animal, big animal, but you got the leaders and you got the followers, which generally most everybody's followers, and you have some big, you know, leaders. Big means they're somehow or other through their brain or through their intelligence that are able to scheme up all types of plans, how to make lots of money, and in the meantime destroy everything. So they're responsible, a lot of it, but they're also the general people also responsible. Everybody's responsible. So anyways, that's one example. Where is, if someone was to follow the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, it wouldn't be happening like this. That's just one example. I mean, there's many. So.
Yes, Balaram Prabhu, wonderful answer to my question. Wonderful example. Thank you very much, Hare Krishna.
Okay, thank you. Is there another one on Zoom or no?
No.
Okay.
No.
That's fine. That's fine. All right. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.